Some days the market is harder to figure out than other days. Some days it just seems pretty obvious how the market is reacting to things. Today is one of those days when you're like, what? So the PPI numbers came in crazy lower than expectations. And I know I gave you a big lecture yesterday about how the PPI doesn't necessarily predict the CPI. And in fact, the CPI tomorrow could come in higher than expectations or exactly as expectations, even after this great PPI print. Now, I'm going to give you some great details on the PPI print in a minute that I think will be very useful if you like this kind of thing, if you like to be able to really, truly get in and dig in and understand markets and understand how the economy works, which will help you to make decisions with regard to your own investments. But just in general, if you have the PPI this low over month after month after month, then generally speaking, it's impossible for the CPI to go up very much unless the wholesalers and retailers are just going crazy raising prices. But that's not happening. We're not seeing that. So anyway, the markets this morning are like, okay, that's nice. In fact, even the bond market, the 10-year the yields are down a little tiny bit, but they're not down that much. And the market itself is just kind of okay. We're up a little bit again, all-time highs. Now, this could be because it's stretched, and that's what I've been talking about. Tesla's up a little bit this morning, and Tesla's not stretched, but it might be an overall general market sense of like, man, this market is stretched. We need more. We need to see something really crazy, like the the CPI really, really having a much even anything lower than expected tomorrow morning. Anyway, all right, let's get into the news because last night Elon Musk managed to get onto the All-In pod in their All-In summit. And maybe you already saw all this. I'll just make a couple of comments. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but if you didn't watch it, yeah, it's worth a watch. It was half an hour, 45-minute conversation, and it wasn't a ton new, but let's just talk about it. So Air Merit's reporting Elon Musk says Tesla's Optimus robot project is the hardest ever in the history of Tesla. But he added it's not, but I'm adding to what Sawyer said. He also added it's not as hard as the Starship being made reusable. He said that is the hardest thing that he's ever done, and probably the hardest thing that humans have ever tried to do. And I think it's really coming down to the heat shields because, as he pointed out, nobody's ever made a reusable rocket with heat or the heat shields. Well, okay, nobody's made a reusable rocket except him, and he needs these heat shields to be reusable off the ship. Anyway, so we've got, boosters that we reuse all the time, but getting the ship back also is what he's shooting for. So I remember also reporting on last night's All-In podcast says Elon Musk says Tesla's AI5 chip, the AI5, not the AI6, the AI5, which is almost finished now and almost ready to start making it, will be up to 40 times better than the AI4 in some metrics, and 8 times better in raw compute, 9x better in more memory. And Elon specifically said, quote, I am confident the AI4 chips currently in cars will achieve self-driving safety at least 2 to 3 times that of a human, maybe 10x, 10 times. The current chip, the AI4, is going to get to 10x humans, 2 to 3 times for sure, maybe 10x. And then we're going to get this chip later this year, early next year, that will be magnificent compared to the AI4. Then he goes on to say that Musk's FSD version 14, the FSD version 14 will be the biggest upgrade in Tesla software since version 12. He has said this before. Now, this sounds like a little bit of a pushing the goalposts out a month or two. He says your car is going to feel like it's sentient by the end of the year, and it also sounded as if he was pulling back a little bit on his promise that the V14 version 14 would be out by the end of September. It sounded like he kind of reneged on that just a tiny bit. So don't know what's going on, but we'll see over the next couple of months here. Hey, by the end of the year, okay, but it's probably going to mess up my plans for 1,000 by the end of the year if we don't get these V14 chips, or we don't get the much more, many more cars on the road And, maybe there, again, abundance of caution, as I saw one person post on X this morning. Barron says that Tesla's new Mega Block, which we talked about for the last 2 days, does what Tesla does best. It leverages the company's manufacturing expertise, simplify, and then vertically integrate, according to William Blair, analyst for Dorsheimer. In a Wednesday report, this is a game changer for grid storage customers and a strong data point from our bullish thesis on the energy storage business. Dorsheimer rates shares a hold right now, does not have a price target for Tesla stock. He is getting more bullish, he says, though. We are finding it increasingly difficult to maintain a market perform rating. We're holding back. We really want to be a bull, especially with the positive momentum in the energy business and robotaxi, wrote the analyst. We're waiting to see how margins react to the elimination of the environmental tax credit revenue in the second half of this year. Well, the margins are going to go up. Well, actually, we got all these different things going on with the margins for the Q3 and Q4. Q3 margins would normally go up, and Q4 margins would normally go up based on just the reality of selling more cars, which meant better utilization of the factory. You would have, I'm sorry, there was another reason for it. Anyway, that would be the main reason. Okay, and then, but you'd also have margins potentially coming. Oh, I'm sorry, and because we don't have to give away deal, we don't have to do a bunch of giveaways. We don't have to do as many incentives. But on the other side of the coin, you've got the tariffs, which are going to impact the margins somewhat, and we know also that the margins are going to be impacted by the ZIV credits being less. So not sure how that'll all play out. Let's say that margins stay exactly the same, drop down just a little bit, maybe, but the extra 50,000 cars that we're expecting, maybe even getting as high as 500,000 cars in the third and Q4, that's going to help overall. Overall, 43% of analysts covering Tesla stock rate shares a buy. According to FactSet, the average buy rating right now in the S&P is 55, so not quite as good as the average. And the average analyst price target is 314, so we're already past that. From Autism Capital, I see his stuff a lot. I'm not sure I've ever quoted him before, but he is on X under Autism Capital. Elon Musk's, he quotes him, says, "I haven't been to D.C. since May. Haven't been to Washington, D.C. since May. The government is basically unfixable. I applaud David Sachs, his noble efforts. But at the end of the day, if you look at our national debt, if AI and robots don't solve our national debt, we are toast." Well, there's a very, very good chance that AI and robots will solve our national debt. But before that, I think there are a couple of other things that Washington is doing very much because of Elon Musk, because Doge is still there. Interest rates are coming down. The economy is doing okay, not great, but well. And I think it'll do even better next year because of the Big Beautiful Bill. And the Big Beautiful Bill, I believe, will also bring down expenses. We've got breaking news from ADUB 0808. ADUB 0808. Breaking. Just caught Tesla robotaxi test vehicles cruising in Tempe, Arizona. Maybe the rollout will be coming soon in Tempe. This is Ray Kirk. Hit like and subscribe and notify and all that jazz. And then join Patreon. By the way, the book is on the way to the readers. If you didn't get a notification, if you wanted to be a reader and you already sent me an email a month ago saying you wanted to be a reader, and last night you didn't get a copy of the book you didn't get an email from me, in other words, send me a note, send me an email today, or a DM, or however you want to contact me and say, "Hey, Randy, I said I wanted to be a reader and I didn't get a copy." Anyway, we'll get you one, all right? The producer price index, here we go, for final demand edged down, not up, down 0.1% in August. Now, that's the headline number. The prices for the final demand services actually declined by 0.2%, and the index for final demand goods rose only 0.1%. So headline numbers, we're in great shape. On the unadjusted basis, the index for final demand advanced 2.6% for the 12 months ended in August. So that's the unadjusted basis. So after the adjustments, I'm sorry, unadjusted 2.6. That was expected to be, I think, over 3. The August decrease in the final demand index is attributed to a 0.2% decline in prices for final demand services. In contrast, the index for final demand goods inched up only 1. I already said all that. Prices for final demand less foods, energy, and trade services rose 0.3, which is exactly what was expected, which is the 4th consecutive increase. For the 12 months ended in August, the index for final demand less goods moved up 2.8, which was much less. I think that was expected to be like 3.3. That's the largest increase largest 12-month advance since climbing 3.5 in March of 2025, but it was less than what was expected and was because of certain things. All right, so final demand services, the index for final demand services, the August decrease can be traced to a 1.7 drop in margins for final demand trade services, which was the reason why it went up so much last month. So we had this big to-doom, okay, probably related to the whole thing with import-export and more coming in certain months. But anyway, trade indices measure changes in margins received by wholesalers and retail. So margins were flip-flopping around, okay? And it flip-flopped over 2 months. If you smooth that, we got nothing going on. We have PPI in, well, as we'll see in a minute, because we're going to smooth it for you. Conversely, the indices for final demand services, less trade, transportation, and warehouse for final demand transportation and warehouse services increased by 0.3% and 0.9%. So the final demand warehousing apparently went up a lot. 3/4 of August decreases in price. 3/4 of the August decrease in prices can be attributed to a 3.9% decline in margins for machinery and vehicle wholesaling. So this just throws everything off, which is like last month. Everything's thrown off by these one-time deals, which might even be wrong. The indices for professional and commercial equipment wholesaling, chemicals and allied products wholesaling, furniture retailing and food and alcohol retailing, and data processing and related services also moved lower. But prices for portfolio management advanced 2%. 2% in 1 month. The indices for truck transportation of freight and apparel increased also. Final demand goods, prices for final demand goods inched up only 0.1%. And what you had, again, you've got all these flip-flops. Final demand goods prices, less food and energy rose 0.3%. But then if you start looking into it, you've got a major factor was final demand goods was increases for tobacco products. The indices for beef and veal, processed poultry, and printed circuit assembly boards, modules and modems, and electric power also rose. But last month, the very thing that went up, dry vegetables, went down. Chicken eggs, down. Copper scrap, down. So you get these flip-flops. Anyway, so I said, all right, Grok, what do we got over the last 6 months? So PPI, the PPI headline number, March, down 0.2, April, down 0.3, May, up 0.4, June, up 0.1, July, up 0.7, which screwed up everything with regard to the Fed. August, back down 0.1. Are you getting a trend here? Now let's go to the core. March, up 0.1, April, 0.3, May, 0.3, June, 0.2, last month, 0.4, this month, back to 0.3. Okay, the cumulative change over the last 6 months compounded is approximately 0.6 for the headline number and 1.5 for core. 1.5 for core PPI over the last 6 months. How does 𝐤𝐚𝐽𝐻 say it this morning? Remember, I love his data. I just don't love his analysis. August PPI inflation falls to 2.6 below expectations of 3.3. Core fell to 2.8 below expectations of 3.5. I had those expectations wrong. Month over month, PPI inflation was negative for just the second time since March 2024. Rate cuts are on the way. And what are the folks over at Truflation saying? 2.04 overnight, 1.81 year over year, and PCE only at 2.15. I think that's the lowest reading that we've seen so far. By the way, Rasmussen didn't have a number yet this morning for the presidential rating, and the Atlanta Fed would still be at 3.0, no change there. All right, so Tesla is managing a full 1% increase this morning and is headed up and to the right finally. This morning, things were kind of this way and that way. Again, I'm thinking the market should be going crazy this morning with these numbers. I'm thinking the bonds should be going crazy. There should be a rally going on, but I guess everybody's waiting to see if CPI follows through. The Dow is down 0.32. NASDAQ is up almost a full percent. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading this morning. Is up 0.54. The S&P is up 0.53. Wow, my glasses aren't working for me this morning. Okay, whoops, sorry. S&P up 0.53. So that's a record for the S&P. I think that's a record for the NASDAQ. The S&P is now at 6.546. Again, I'm quoting Tom Lee a lot recently, but he's thinking 6,600 or higher by the end of the year. So this is the 24th, I think, all-time high, if it holds, for the S&P. We've got the Magnificent Seven mixed this morning, but NVIDIA going nuts, up 4.36. That probably had to do with a very big increase in the value of, let me get it here. I guess there's so many names and you can't keep track of all of them. Oracle had a big move this morning, and so that's probably impacting NVIDIA too. All right, let's go ahead and look at the bonds, which, as I mentioned, shockingly, here we go, it's getting better. We're down 1.5 now, back to 4.059. So my goal of being under 4 by the end of the week is still in place. If the CPI comes in under expectations tomorrow morning, I think we go under 3 for sure. This will be great for mortgages. Mortgages are already at year lows, probably more than a year at this point. And we've got, and oil up 76 cents this morning, sitting at 63.39. Natural gas down almost 2% at 3.055. We've got gold still going higher at 3693. Silver up a full percent at $41.76. And copper up almost a full percent at $4.55. That's around the highest we've seen it. Actually, $4.56, around the highest we've seen it. Money, the dollar, mixed. And then Bitcoin is catching fire. So it's up 2.56% this morning, 114,179. And Ether up almost 3%, also 2.94 at 4,420. Okay, so later on today, my expectations are, because everything got thrown off yesterday, that you're going to get Brian Wang, and then you're going to get Nicholas Gibbs. Now, that's a 1-2 for you. Now, I don't know which way that'll go because it'll depend on both of their schedules. But those two, one at 5 o'clock-ish or a little around that time, and the other at 7:45, that should be powerful given everything that's happened in the last 48 hours. I've got so much I need to talk to those two guys about. So look forward to those two shows tonight. Last night, I was all by myself at the 7 o'clock hour. I'm sorry, the 5 o'clock hour, because Nick couldn't make it and I couldn't find anybody to fill in. So last night's show, though, if you're interested in it, I did a very thorough analysis of why PPI doesn't always become CPI. Okay. And so we can't count on what happened today to be a predictor of what happens tomorrow. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I went into that last night. So if you want to see more about that, there is the card. And then Brian White and we talked about the two pieces of information that we've had over the last couple of weeks, which are the Elon Musk pay package and the Master Plan 4. There's clues in there about what Elon is thinking about the future. And that's what he and I talked about last night. And I felt it was really, really good. So both of those are up right there. I'll put those cards both up there right now. And I think that's all I've got for you right now, except I'd like to see if Tesla is still moving up and to the right. And, as I just, yes, it is. It is moving up strongly now. We're at 351, up 1.16%. There you go. Here we go. Let's go, Elon. All right. So that's all I got. It's been great talking to you.